correspondence to sift through. We plan on getting right to work, reviewing those the following week. We meet weekly anyway on this project, virtually with the consultants and the appropriate town staff, and sometimes in person. We did meet in person a couple weeks ago, but usually it's virtual. And we're meeting next week in person, but we're going along. We're gonna review it next week, meet, see who we want to interview, and set up interviews for the following week, and hopefully narrow it down and have someone, at least selected in November. And, and then the contract, well, that takes a little time, because it's some bouncing back and forth with attorneys and insurance companies, and, everyone fights over the little details, and, so that usually takes, 2 to 3 weeks, depending on, how that review goes, or the shape of the initial contract that's sent over. So by the end of the year, we should have a construction manager on board, and the first thing he's gonna do, obviously, is she is start looking at pricing, and, backing up, because the architect's kinda going on some assumptions, and, but they're at this point, they're just assumptions. So what do things really cost in this market right now? We're gonna start getting that and start pricing those up. The other thing is just, I didn't wanna print out too many of them, because this is a work in progress, because this is probably the second rendition of the concept, and we'll probably go through, they're doing a third, they're revising this as we speak, but I thought I'd just pass this around to see where we're at. We have a conceptual site plan, they have a couple of plans with the grades, because the fire kind of would like to have a drive-through apparatus bay, ideally, which was not on the LBA plans. So the kind of site is, it's situated a little bit like this, as you can see. The original was like here, here's Continental, here's Jillian. Original was like this, but they kind of tilted it like this for a couple reasons. One, to avoid this wetland, and another to kind of allow a swing around and be, instead of being here, that they have to come around and, all the way, they kind of come around, they can go in right here and then drive back out. So there's a concept plan, I'll pass this around so you can take a look at it, and then they have a concept, a couple of level floor plans, and then this is just a reference because they're looking at possibly putting the generator on the roof, and they just showed an example of what that looks like to save space, because we are kind of constrained with that. So the project's moving along well, I think, and that's my update. I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Update. So we'll open it up to the floor for any comments or questions.
I think the only thing I had coming, I had talked to you guys about the generator piece last time. So I had mentioned that our company's doing obviously a fuel cell generators for Verizon, and doing a lot of them. So basically what they're doing is that they're doing the capture of, basically you have the tanks which are being filled with, what am I thinking? They're filled with,
I'm not sure. What are they getting filled with?
so what they do is they split oxygen and hydrogen. So the hydrogen, so they have a hydrogen tank, and that's what they actually store. So they use the solar.
Yeah.
Solar is actually the generator for splitting the hydrogen and the oxygen. So what they end up with is you create the hydrogen tanks, and that's what they burn for their fuel for the generators. So if there is interest in doing something that's different, there is technology out there, and this is something that is going across the country. It's a major national organization that's doing it, and so there's a way to do it without a petroleum-based.
Diesel or propane one.
Yeah, exactly. Well, the problem is that propane, you're just not gonna get it'll depend on how much they need, wattage they need to generate is really gonna be.
What I was told was they could go with diesel or natural gas, because there's natural gas at the site. So natural gas can only supply up to a certain kilowatt.
Correct.
But I guess that's okay. They can go with either one. If they put it on top of the building, I think they have to go with gas, and that kind of store.
Yeah.
1,000 gallons of diesel. Well, in that picture there isn't.
So what
that
ends
one-
up happening is
So-
if you're end up with that, is that from a risk standpoint too, is that you're not putting natural gas, I mean, you could pipe natural gas to it, but, and if you didn't wanna use, a fossil fuel, then there is an opportunity.
No, I understood. I guess, what is do we know price?
I,
And like, is it comparable to, is it,
I'm sure it's probably more money,
yeah, okay.
It is a little bit, I did some research doing that.
so, but it goes back to this, the organization really wants to do something that's more of a net zero scenario. That's really the thing, is getting an idea how much what the cost is, so you can make a comparison if you wanna do it or don't wanna do it, so it's.
Yeah, I think it's just a matter, we'll look into it. I think it's a matter at this point is we only have so much budget. So we're willing to do as much as we can do within the money we have.
Sure, and I think that
So-
the issue for this too is also looking at operational costs, so the reality is that what you're doing is you're generating your own fuel. So you're not, from on a monthly basis as far as replenishment of fuel and all these other things, is you don't have that, it's actually being generated, from a small, so it's.
When I hear hydrogen though, extremely,
It's not, I think that is one of those,
it's, well, that's why they don't do them, that's why I heard that they don't do hydrogen cars, because
no, that's not what they
they blow up.
If you go to Japan, most of the cars are actually hydrogen fuel cell cars in Japan, so Toyota has budget, they've invested a lot of technology in hydrogen fuel cells, so. Google's campus is hydrogen fuel cells, actually Amazon's doing a huge, bunch of their data centers are all fuel cell technology.
And they build them to spec. There was a company, actually, a guy in town here that works for the company, he's a friend of mine, engineer.
Yeah.
And they said they can build the units to spec what you want, so they can add in like propane.
It's just, yeah.
But it does generate, you're gonna have some kind of a hazmat situation like 10 to 11 years when the fuel cell runs out. So they're still trying to work that out, I believe is what I'm told, so that's the only downside.
Yeah, it's basically what it ends up is that the medium that they use to do the chemical transfer between, to pull out to separate the two things and create the hydrogen, that membrane is what gets, wears out, basically.
The budget figure you have there on the handout, is that the all budget, everything, or is that just the construction budget?
That's construction budget, what we have.
Okay,
So that's actually, because when we say things like this, any type of
yeah,
change or increase in cost is going to have potentially a material effect on the operations and the programming of the
Yeah.
police and fire, because it was 23,000 square feet, a little over was the programming, now we're down to 20,000.
so, but the point of my question, does that include all hard costs and soft costs in that 15?
It's
million?
construction,
Just construction?
just construction.
So there's an additional,
Well, we have 17.5,
okay, well, 17.5.
but it's like one point something million for the design,
Yeah.
whatever the contract is, and
Just
so,
curious.
yeah,
Thank you.
that's all in, so they already had to remove about 2,000 square feet from the building. We're gonna have that conversation next week as to why, because we think, that's why we want a construction manager on board, because maybe they might be more, I don't know, that price seems high to us in this market, so hopefully it isn't, but their square footage price is
Well,
725,
750,
750,
yeah,
and 25, I thought it was 725, 750,
Oh,
whatever.
yeah.
Anyone know?
What was?
Anyone have any?
I'm
working
sorry,
in
I
this-
was looking, what cost? What was
Oh,
750?
it's on there.
Oh, you
Just look at the floor plan, to the right of the first floor plan.
It,
Oh,
it
next
does
page.
it does seem high.
Yeah.
Well, that's what we were thinking for this market. I
Uh,
mean, LBA, like our first LBA study,
Yep.
that was about, done a year and a half ago now, had like 582. So that's
Price per square foot. I
quite
don't
a
think,
jump.
I don't know if that's crazy right now.
So either somebody was either low or this is good. or-
No, stuff's still going up.
Yeah.
I mean, it hasn't settled down that much. And there's still long lead items in there too.
I would assume that they've got a fairly healthy design budget contingency in there as well, because they don't know exactly what they're doing for systems, they don't know exactly what they're,
Well,
so,
my understanding is what they told me is that's construction, right there.
but that's done by the architect, right?
Correct.
Okay. Well, I'll speak for my own industry, is that I probably would not necessarily say that they're gonna do a rough order of magnitude, they're gonna add
No,
in
yeah.
a design contingency of saying of say 10 to 15% at this point in time. So you could be up to, you know, maybe 1.5.
What do you mean a design?
Because all the systems and everything else are designed, right?
I don't know.
You're basically saying that you're taking a square footage number, say it's $600 a square foot, you apply that square, and then you have these things that are unknowns. So to make sure that the budget doesn't go over, you put into that design contingency of some level, so that as you get closer to the actual final design, you're actually designing to the, you're narrowing down the value.
So a design contingency doesn't spend funds on design?
No, this is the idea that they don't, design is not complete.
Yeah.
This is a schematic
It's within-
level
it's
drawing.
within-
No, understood, but,
It's within the construction budget.
Yeah, it's within the construction.
okay.
It falls within the construction budget. And
Gotcha.
it's design as in the design of systems and the design of the building, not of, actual design dollars.
Okay, all right.
So the example would be is if you say you end up with a building envelope that's, a higher R value or a more intensive exterior building envelope than, say, a standard building, right? So your, you know, commercial building is X dollars a square foot, and you end up with a building that's got a higher, you know,
Oh, I get you, all right, so it's not design dollars,
No.
it's how you design it, it's the
Correct,
details
right.
that might add the
The
cost. I
mechanical
got it,
systems,
I got it,
it's the
I got it,
electrical
I got it,
systems,
I got
it's
it.
the,
Okay,
everything
yeah,
else.
I understand that.
Well, good.
Yeah, so hopefully though, we get, because it's tough, like they're using that to get to a square footage for a concept. We don't wanna leave, you know, a couple thousand square feet on the table if we don't have to. So, we're
Yeah,
happy
you
to
gotta
get
the
CM on
CMAR
board
on,
Right.
yeah.
and have them look at this,
Yeah.
have them look at this ASAP, so.
But it would, you know, from, at early stages typically is that you would have this contingency value in there, right?
Yep.
And you would identify areas in which you would have to sit there and say it's either square footage that we have to reduce, it's scope we have to reduce, or it's the level of finish, or the level of the, you know, level of finish. So all those things would be the items that you have to sit there and put a value to all those to say, if I wanted a brick building and I can't afford a brick building, then I'm gonna get X, right? So I think it really, I don't know what, again, if they did a outline spec on this to sit there and say this is based upon what for building envelope, what for roofs, what for,
Don't know, we haven't met with them yet to ask those questions.
Right.
We have a lot of questions next week based on this, like,
yeah.
where are you coming up with that number?
And I think
That's
when
what I
they,
think.
when they give you, just as a recommendation, when they give you something like that, ask for backup.
Well, that's what we're going to,
No, but I say they sent you that, they should have sent you really ultimately, I think, something to sit there and say, we're basing this on, these items are based upon these, at a very, very high level, estimated value. So if they had a building, they just did that similar square footage, and that building was a brick building with this, that, and the other thing, then it would tell you kind of like what the comparison would be.
yeah, I think they're gonna provide all that. I think it was just they were being nice, like they did this and then they kinda just sent it out and said, we're gonna talk. And that's, we're gonna have a meeting. We were supposed to meet yesterday, but they had a conflict, so they bumped it out. So maybe we were supposed to get that information, but we will, ideally, work through that next week.
Who's TGAS?
Ted Galante Architectural Studios,
Okay.
they're out of Cambridge.
Yeah.
They're doing the Salem Police Station at the moment.
How old is that new Patrick? Is that,
Oh, yeah, the only reason they put that in there
yeah,
was because of the generator picture on the roof.
got it.
I don't know. But it,
It's not a comparable,
Hmm?
it's not comparable to this project, other than the generator.
it's only to illustrate the generator on the roof.
Right.
Because there was some talk about a generator on the roof, people like, what, generator on the roof? And so they sent us a picture, they said that has like shock absorbers, it's like a shock, so when it vibrates and stuff, it doesn't, you know,
Shake the
yeah, it's like a shock absorber system that it sits on. I don't know. But they said, you know, it's something to consider. Long way to go, moving pieces around.
So your CM will, is gonna also come up with a schedule on the project, right?
Yeah, values,
No,
estimate,
no, time schedule.
Yes,
Yes,
yes.
yeah.
Yeah, we've already, the architect did one preliminary, like maybe a month ago or so. It's got us starting, I think, in April or May, and it's got a 14 to 16 month construction, and it puts us in, occupying the building in, fall of '26. So maybe 2 years from today.
Okay, or at least you'll evaluate the contractors, plus, yeah.
Yeah, we have like some redundancy on a couple of important things like schedule and values, like cost estimators. We have like two, you know, architects doing it, CM's gonna do it. And I think we have what, 2 or 3 estimates. Ugh.
What's your OPM doing then, are they,
Oh, wait a minute, not the architect, the OPM
okay,
is
thank you.
gonna do that.
All right.
They're gonna do one of the cost estimating, once, like the CM does,
Okay.
and they're gonna do their own on the side, so.
Good.
Any
So
other
any other advice or anything?
questions, advice?
Stuff I need to know at this stage?
So contractor selection, what's your approach for that? I know you gave the timeline on it, but how are you gonna evaluate them?
It's the same process generally that we follow with pretty much all our RFPs, RFQs, and we take them in, we evaluate the qualifications, we figure out who's the most qualified based on a lot of criteria. We have a written criteria that we go through: New Hampshire experience, familiarity, experience with similar size projects, so in scope and size, and, so forth. We have I can't remember it all, but, and quality of the response. And then, so we interview usually from a minimum of 3 up to 5. Don't usually like to go over 5. We interview them in like, a 2-day or 1 all day, like, we schedule about an hour and a half, 2 hours apart. And there's a panel. I think the panel includes the fire chief, police chief, deputy police chief, myself. We asked the finance director, building inspector, a couple others.
You have your,
Ross.
you got somebody from your OPM team on there.
Oh, yeah, Dave Hurley, from the OPM, Joe Sullivan will be there. Those 2 guys from our OPMs will be there. And we have a criteria ranking that everyone individually ranks, and then we kind of collectively do them. We add them up, I take them, add them up, and kind of see who rose to the top. And it's always been pretty good, that like you always, it's never like, someone, like everyone's all over the place. It usually, people, it's pretty obvious who the kind of top couple are. And then we reconvene after that and kind of talk about it and figure out who to negotiate a scope and fee with. And then we go, because it's an RFQ, and then we'll negotiate price, what have you, overhead, profit, and so forth. And then hopefully if we get to a point where we agree, then we'll go into contract with them. If for some reason we cannot agree on, we cannot negotiate with the first selected firm, we'll move on to the second. Frankly, I haven't never done that, but I wouldn't say it's out of the question. So does that answer your question?
Mhm.
That's the whole process.
Yeah, mainly I was interested in the team of people you have evaluating them, so, yeah, take good advantage of the OPM, and it sounds like you are, so.
Yeah. Well, and the architect's on board
Architect,
too,
okay. Yeah, that's
because
good.
the architect, we see this as the OPM, the architect, and the CM all have to
Yeah.
work in the
No,
same
that's
bathtub.
good. That's
So
good.
they have to all play together nicely, they all have to cooperate and work well, so.
That's the desired team.
Yeah.
It works best when they can work together, yeah.
Yeah, and they did, we did target some firms that they've successfully worked with in the past. The OPM has, TGAS has,
Mhm.
and others, and, you know, so they have experience with quite a few of them that have showed interest, so should be able to put together a good team.
Good. Any other questions, comments?
No.
All right.
Good.
Consider that matter complete. We'll move on to the next one. Parks and Rec, 10 Hampton Road, project update. So Dave, I guess you're back.
Yeah, back. As you know, I don't know if I don't know when the last update I've given, but you folks recommended that I take over that project and be like, act as the
I don't
project
know if we did or you
manager.
did, but either way, I mean.
Yeah, I think we did.
No, you did. I didn't recommend it, I'll tell you that, so like, but that's fine. I mean,
Yes.
somebody said it was a good idea to think, so I did. We brought it and we did. So I've been working, I keep the rec department informed, but I'm working directly with Hampshire Development Corp., who we selected to do the work as a design builder.
Mhm.
Because it was this architect contract, and I was like, they're not an architect, they don't do the design there. This is a design build, they hire out. So I kinda got that, turned that around, we got a design build contract, talked to CDFA, they approved the parameters of what we're doing. We started going back and forth with HDC, well, got Primex to review it first, our insurance company, they had some changes, our legal had some changes, and then we sent it to HDC, they had some changes, sent it back to legal, and now it's almost ready to execute, hopefully next week. Just gotta send it to CDFA, finalize it, I was working on it today, finalize it within the next couple of days, send it to CDFA, get approval, and we're under contract.
Yeah, that was very time sensitive, right? Is
Well,
it time just to start the contract or to complete the project?
Well, it's complete the project by August, I think it's August 1st or the end of August, one or the other, I think it's August 1st. And no more money after that.
Yeah.
So if we have something substantial left, we're on the hook for it. So we need to finish by August 1st. I've been assured by Hampshire Development Corp. that they really said, you know, they don't see any issue with that.
Yeah, it
You
wasn't
know,
a ton of scope. Is there an elevator in this?
Yeah, yeah.
And that wasn't too long of a lead item, that's gonna work into the schedule from now?
Well, I didn't ask them that. They know, I didn't ask them that specific question.
All right.
But
That's
they
the
know
only- That's
that-
the one big, long lead item I could think of.
They know that, they know there's a lift in there.
Yeah.
Do they call them, there's a difference, right, between an elevator and a lift?
If it's just a lift, then.
It's a lift,
Okay.
it's not an elevator.
So that might be easier to
Yeah.
get off the shelf kind of item.
Yeah. So,
All right.
so they assure us, they're like, yeah, we're gonna, you know, they've already been in there, done some investigatory demolition.
Yeah.
They're already poking around, JSN is already, that's their designer that they're
Yep.
contracting with. And in fact, just to get over the CDFA, because CDFA requires that they bid out all their subs.
Right. They can't hold any contracts, right? That was one of the requirements, right?
They couldn't have their own subs for any of the trades.
No, yeah, they can't do their own work.
Right.
Yeah.
But they don't do their own work anyway, except like cleanup and stuff like that, CDFA is okay with that, but, like cleaning up the site and sweeping.
I know
stuff
what
like
you're
that.
talking about.
Yeah, but they would normally have to bid that out, the design. And they had a couple of people that they work with, that they, you know, work with often, and they're like, we go out to bid, you know, this could be, you know, not very good. It could delay, it could cost more money, and so we went to CDFA, we talked to them, and we said, if we use our own funds, can we pay that, you know, pay that to them, pay it to HDC, but then they pay, in turn, pay the design folks, and we just tell CDFA, this is coming from our money. They were fine with that, so we went to the select board, a couple weeks ago.
It was just Monday night.
Yeah, just Monday night, yeah, last Monday night, and they gave us approval to spend $60,000 out of the rec revolving fund. So we're gonna use our funds, so we saved a couple months there, you know, anyway, and possibly kind of the project going, so. I think it's in a good spot right now, we should be under contract next week, and they said with design and so forth and MEP, they're probably looking at, you know, they'll do some work over the winter, but they said as long as they get in there in March, they should have no issue buttoning it up by August.
Yeah, it wasn't a big scope project.
The
so-
select board's very happy, Dave's leading the way.
Yeah, no, that's good.
It's a good switch. Nice suggestion.
Hopefully, yeah. There'll be construction issues, I'm sure, but we'll hopefully get through it. But it's good, oh, and then CDFA came and met us on site last Friday, and they were happy, cause they were like, you know, they were worried that there really wasn't a lot of movement on this for about a year, but, they seemed happy and pleased now, and they're glad it's moving in the right direction.
Do they have to do any periodic check-ins or?
Yeah,
site
they have like,
visits, or-
I think it's quarterly reports. I don't have to do, Dave Tubby, from Rec does that, he just did one the other day, so,
I mean, for the CDFA.
yeah, that's who he sends the
Yeah,
quarterly
oh,
reports
okay.
to. And it's right in the agreement that, you know, it's scheduled,
I
like,
mean, do they have to come to the site at all, like during construction or after? or-
I don't believe so, the agreement's more, well, maybe after for the final walkthrough or something like that, but they're active, they like to keep, they're in Portsmouth and they visit their projects a lot, so. I'm sure I'll see them, but the grant agreement just had kind of specifications of quarterly reports,
Mm.
so forth. I don't remember seeing any required site visits, but I'm sure they will.
Any other questions, comments? All right. I think we're good with Dave. Thank you, Dave. Item 5, space needs assessment working session. I have to admit, I'm new to this one. I haven't been to a couple of meetings, so let's open up the floor for discussion on that.
Well, we can talk about it, but I was gonna, since Mark is not here, that maybe we postpone this one until.
Yeah, I think one of the things maybe we could establish a time frame to do it and kind of a specific, so that way we can say, you know, maybe it's in either December, beginning of December or something like that, we set a time to do it. So the intent really is to kind of map out what that request might look like from a space needs assessment and kind of a working session. And then we could just establish a time frame and a kind of an agenda for that.
Yeah, agreed.
So that would be what I would recommend for number 5. And that way where everyone's can sit there and say, you know, let's put it far enough in the advance and get an agenda out for that.
That sounds good. Can you make a motion of all that, or?
Sure. I make a motion that we establish, well, I think, let's discuss a timeframe first, so we can make a motion that actually is a specific timeframe. If we were to take an early December facilities meeting and make that one of our working sessions to discuss and kind of map out our facilities assessment, what would be a good time frame for that to happen? Is there, so I'm thinking that if it's like, say, the first couple of weeks of December, say like the December 11th.
Well,
Yeah, that's probably better
we're
than
gonna
later.
code, yeah, is that the regular monthly meeting? No, that's,
The regular monthly meeting would be the end of, it's at the end of the month.
yeah,
So my proposal is that we do this kind of in the middle of the month because December is
Yeah,
busy.
but not 2 meetings in the month, just
No,
a
just one.
co-located meeting.
Yes.
Yes, okay.
Yes.
Yeah, that sounds right.
So if everyone's so I make a motion that we move the meeting from the December meeting, from the end of the month to the 11th. And as the goal of that meeting would set the agenda to really focus on mapping out a space needs assessment and what that would look like for next steps.
December 11th is what day of the week?
That's a Wednesday.
Wednesday, good.
Just to inform the discussion, space needs assessment on like particular departments, general government, everybody? Is there gonna be a focus?
So the intent would be is if you were gonna look at a space need, it may be as broad as everything, but as part of what we're trying to do in that meeting is to scope that out, to sit there and say, what, you know, where are the edges? Where do we wanna stop? Where do we wanna bring, and then.
But, yeah, that's why I wanna ask, cause like, police and fire MRI just completed one, you know,
Correct.
Space needs assessment.
So here would be an example, is that take the existing building. There will be a portion of that building which will be unoccupied.
Yeah.
So
Oh,
the point,
so are you looking at
It's
Use, facilities use?
it would be, this is the intent is to put together kind of a mapping out of saying, all right, if you were going to do a space needs assessment, you could sit there and say, we have both a program side, which is the uses, and then you have the space,
Yes, matching those.
right?
Yeah.
And now you're sitting there saying, okay, well, now we've got uses and we've got space. We have needs and we've got space. So how do
Oh, I
you
get
begin
that.
to match
Yeah.
those up? So
Yeah.
part of that would be identifying what that scope would look like. So what buildings would you include? What buildings would you not include?
That's what I was asking.
Yes.
Do you have a sense of that? We don't have a sense of
No, I
that. That's
think
what
that
this
comes from the
meeting's for.
discussion.
Yes.
Okay.
It's a
Oh,
fine,
that's the exercise.
within our.
Yeah, that's, I was just clarifying, because I
Yeah.
didn't know if there was already some
Within our,
thought.
No.
within our town, it's rather a finite group.
There's
is.
not a lot.
It's a small pool.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
well,
it's-
yeah, because the police and fire just, I mean, well, you can do it again, they just did a pretty,
But I think
Lengthy
that brains,
one.
that, we need to have that brainstorming, that discussion of what's there.
Right, and I think that, I think that there, part of that was that you will have some space there, you'll also have, the Court Street site. So there's a number of things to sit there and say, as you look at things over the next couple of years, how do you best use the space? Is there, I know that there's some programming that's gone on for this one right there, where does that sit? And how do you divvy it up, and then how do you create a work
Point
plan?
at the town hall.
Right.
Yeah.
So what's the work plan look like? And it's not to say this is it, but it's saying this is a work plan, and it's identifying that there's opportunity for having, both from a budget standpoint and from a use standpoint, right?
And what it avoids is the ad hoc fill-ins that you often find that then turn out not to be
You know all too well, do you?
quite what you want.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and it then can guide budgeting.
Yeah.
So,
And I think that was the intent, was that originally it was, we will have the FCA really established as kind of like a reoccurring kind of renewal. And then now you have this idea is that if you're going to start to have like either a department grows or changes, and there's kind of a capital portion of that, what becomes operational, what becomes capital. So it starts to build the budget for more of a longer term.
and I think which will be the former rec building, I think that becomes a small model of how this process can work within the town.
Yep. So that's the intent of that. The 11th would be is to have that discussion, map it out a little bit. It's not like we're gonna answer it that day, but at least the idea is that we now can sit there and say, we've started to kind of put a framework around that, and then kind of use it as to build on.
And then I would think getting the annual calendar, that probably by May is to have something substantive to report on.
Right.
Even if it's an
From
interim.
From this committee out to the select board.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even if it's not a complete report, but a progress report of what's happening.
So that's the motion,
I'll second it.
okay?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? The ayes have it. All right, so we'll move the meeting, December meeting to the 11th, and the one item on that will be space needs assessment.
Yeah.
Will it be the same attendees, Dave, Dan, and us?
Sure.
Yeah.
I plan to
whoever
be.
can make it. Yeah, it's the committee.
That's-
And
Hopefully
Okay.
Mark will be here.
We'll make them,
Yeah.
we'll go get them.
He's the chair, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah,
Yeah, it's just trustees.
he can call the meeting when he
Yeah,
can make it.
Needs to be in the front line.
yeah, he does. He's got a lot on his plate right now.
All right, so that's item 5, and thanks Rob and Dan for that brief description. I have a better sense now of what that will entail. Item 6, new business. Anyone have any new business?
Just an update, the Conservation Commission and the Rain Stewardship met today out at Rain's Farm.
Oh, good.
It's really come along, there's 20 years of development there, from when we first got it in Elgin, and we put in the drainage underneath, and fixed up the north wall, and
Pretty much all the collaboratives.
Siding.
yeah,
I
and
noticed that
just
the
we
other
worked
day.
through to
Almost,
the roof.
yeah.
And so then, more currently, there's two contracts. One was with Steve Bedard on the south side, which is almost completed. And then Kristen has just been really great in finding funding opportunities and such. And so the north side has been done, and now Steve Bedard's on the north and west side. So now Steve's on the east side, which you can't see, replacing all of those clapboards. And so that will be, he's not gonna get all that done this winter, it'll spring over spring. So there's going to be a contract extension proposal. And then we're gonna be looking for new money and a warrant article come spring to put in the fire detection system, which had to be dropped out, and the interior stairway to the basement, because now you, if you wanna do, you have to go around. There's been cleanup, it's really looking good. So,
Sitting up on the hill there.
yeah, it just really gleams.
Do you have any, we haven't know about like when can you occupy it, use it, public
Well,
events in it?
We've been doing that over the
Okay.
years, and we talked to
Yeah, I know,
Dave.
like, but Kristen said there's parts of it you couldn't go in.
Well, parts of it couldn't go in or really use because the flooring was not safe.
Yeah,
That's been replaced.
okay,
So, I think for the next year, we're probably gonna be focusing, as we did on the past, with outside events, where you open up the doors, and people, you can go in, have hot chocolate, you can have singing and stuff. But I think down the road, there's probably gonna be more of an effort, once it's done, to look and see how we can, particularly with the fire
And
system,
This,
how we can.
right,
use
that
the
actually
interior.
plays really well into the whole idea of, you know, assessment, when you're saying, you know, as you start to plan over a long period, how do you best use the Rains farm and the barn for
Yeah.
greater usage, right?
But there's a constituency, and there's been events over the years, and there's Friends the Rains Farm, and when we have
It's a great
something out
spot,
there,
yeah.
it gets good turnout.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a couple of people pushing for
Yeah.
events sooner rather than
Yeah,
later.
yeah,
Hmm,
so it's coming along, so it's a good news report.
Yeah, that's excellent.
very good.
But when you go by now, the windows won't come in until the spring. The windows all been, they're restored.
Yeah.
They've all, and each window is different. The windows came from who knows where.
Hmm.
And you know, you have to remember that barn was there before Lincoln came here. So there's a lot of history in its development and a mishmash of things. So the windows have all been done, they're in the shop, and they'll come back in the spring.
Nice, very good.
Yeah.
Any other new business items? Nothing from me. All right, item 7 before we adjourn, next meeting. So next meeting would be November, and are we doing like the fourth Wednesday of the month, and that would be like the Wednesday right
Or
before?
we just go into that December 11th.
Yeah, just push it to December, because I think it might be the Wednesday before Thanksgiving. if we
Yeah,
can
there was an
force it.
email discussion from the last meeting about, with Mark, about finding another date, because that's right before Thanksgiving.
Yeah, okay, so,
So let's say.
So I'm thinking as far as agenda items, I don't think there's a huge amount of items, I mean, we could basically,
no, I don't think so.
not do the
November.
November and then go right to the December working session.
The
And
budget recommendation committee will be done with their work, I can report out on
Yeah.
that in terms of the impact on facilities, but other than that, it's just a space needs assessment.
Okay.
It's
It's been
really-
pretty quiet on the budget front. I guess the last big push we had on that was with the fire and police station, so.
Yeah, it's intentionally a quieter year.
Yeah, so. It's good.
Taxpayers stepped up.
They did, yeah, it's
So
worked out,
it's important not to like throw big projects out in the air.
absolutely. Yeah, because otherwise, if there's anything BRC for us to contribute to, let us know, but I don't have anything on my.
Dave,
we
can
need
you
to
think of
talk.
anything that's on
David?
excuse me, I was reading about hydrogen.
Can you think of any, that's good.
I was like,
Can you think of anything that's, especially CIP, that's coming up that would be of
Warrant any kind of attention from us?
facilities advisory?
for
The,
2025?
CIP, yeah.
yeah, that we're talking about,
Yeah,
yeah, it's
'cause
all pretty low level.
Last couple of years, we were pretty involved with the police and fire stuff, and this year it's quite quiet, so, which is okay with me.
Well, that was like, okay, let's get that done, yeah, before any, I mean, I think, the Public Works has always been kicking the tires about their,
Oh,
Concept,
yeah,
right,
that's
nothing-
true, they're campers.
Exactly.
yeah, but
As
nothing.
they should,
nothing- Yeah, exactly.
So does
But,
Range Farm need any support for their effort in,
Kristen took care of
Anthony's all
I
set.
think
it. I mean, just the fire alarm thing, but
that's pretty
I don't think it
pretty
needs
minor?
support out of here. I think she'd asked for it, if she hasn't. But yeah, we're gonna have the constituency stand up at the meeting
Yep.
and support it.
Yeah, because I think the only thing why we did it last time was because of, it had to do with the funding.
Yeah.
It was,
Yeah, Krista was just collecting letters
Right.
to put in with the LCHIP
Yeah,
grant.
the LCHIP
you know,
grant,
so
piece
we
to make sure that
contributed
it
letters
was.
a couple of times for
Yeah.
that, I think, and we're always willing to do so for that. All right, so I'll make a motion, we'll suspend the November meeting, we'll meet in early December.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Yeah.
All right, so, guess meeting, I'll make a motion to end the meeting, adjourn the meeting.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Meeting adjourned, thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in to Exeter TV. Exeter TV is the town's public and government access channels, available on Comcast channels 6 and 22. Channel 6 is your channel. If you have an idea for a program, want to host your own talk show, or submit a film, we're here to get your content on television. On Channel 22, we bring you live and replay coverage of government meetings and other town updates. A third channel, Blue Hawk Media, is operated by SAU 16 and can be found on Channel 8, with all your school sports, events, and meetings. You can watch Exeter TV online at exeternh.tv, Apple TV, and on Roku. Find us on social media for extra content. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell to get notified about live streams and new content. Tune in to our platforms every other Friday to watch the Exeter Biweekly Report, with recaps of recent events, updates from town departments, and messages from nonprofits in your area. If you head to our website, exeternh.tv, we invite you to sign up to our newsletter to receive monthly updates about new content, upcoming meetings, and more. We'd like to thank you for taking the time to watch Exeter TV and hope that you tune in to our other content as well.